up, guys? Today is Wednesday, June 17th.
We filmed this pod on Wednesday. Right after we recorded, there were updates about Major League Baseball that we did not include during this pod. We were going to add an update, but these things are updating minute to minute, so we might as well just do a full baseball pod once they come to an agreement or not come to an agreement. So the baseball conversation a little bit later in this pod might be a little bit outdated, but there's still some great points from all three of us. So enjoy the pod, guys.
We're here with Stephen Cashin and CJ Uri, along with special guest John DiStefano. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. It's a packed show. The last few weeks, we barely had anything to talk about, but today we've got a ton of shit. Premier League is back today for soccer. CJ is going to start getting me into that. We're super pumped. Right now, there's even a game being played over there in the Premier League. But today, we're going to start off talking with college player likeness. Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, he just approved this big player likeness thing. So we're going to talk about that now. We'll also talk a bit about the NFL, the NBA return, and how there's a little bit of controversy around that. And then I'll start ranting. Stephen and I will start ranting about baseball towards the end of the show. So let's get it started here. So basically, what's going on with this college likeness thing? I know everyone's basically been debating it for years. So I'm just going to read straight off from this article from ESPN. It says, and it's by Dan Murphy, it says, a new Florida law will allow college athletes in the state to make money from endorsements starting next summer. This is adding an expected increase in urgency to the nationwide movement toward creating more opportunities for athletes to benefit from the billions of dollars generated from college sports. But bottom line is, the NCAA doesn't like this. I'll just sum it up. They're basically saying, we don't want this to become college and professional athletics are the same thing. They're kind of worried that players are going to start being paid like professionals, and that's something that worries them. Why? Because they don't want to pay their players. But part of this Florida law, what it says is that the actual colleges cannot pay the players directly. So this is only giving players the opportunity to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And also a big detail, California and Colorado are doing this, but Florida, this law is coming into place in 2021. Those other two states, it's happening in 2023, which gives Florida and RFAU Owls a huge recruiting advantage for the next 2 years. So we brought John on to talk about this, man. What are you thinking about all this being passed?
Well, frankly, Jacob, I think it's the biggest deal, the biggest news we've seen in college sports in the last couple of months. I know that when Gavin Newsom and the governor of California signed SB 206 2 years ago, the Fair Pay to Play Act, we knew that was the very beginning of the end of amateur status in college athletics. We knew that the dominoes were going to have to fall eventually. And this is just a succession of that. We saw that in Colorado with last year with their athlete likeness bill, and now Florida has one as well. And I think it's important for a state that's the recruiting hotbed, the number one recruited state in the entire nation. It's important for a state to retain their players in their colleges. I mean, if you look at the blue chip recruits from last year, 59 came from Florida. That's the highest number in the entire country. That's 16.3% of the blue chip recruits for this year, for 2020. California, by contrast, is actually falling lately. They're actually now down to fourth in recruiting, and they know it. They know they've had trouble in recruiting before. This is why Gavin Newsom signed their bill. So it's interesting watching the states compete for jockey for position, trying to one up each other as far as the dates they want these bills to come out, because they realize the importance is critical in recruiting and when it comes to retaining money in their state.
Yeah, man. I mean, I completely agree. I think this is huge. But I mean, we got to be starting to think about what these colleges are thinking right now in Florida, because they are probably super pumped right now. They're thinking, we have this 2-year advantage right now where we can recruit players and tell them, you can make money, man. You can't go anywhere else in the United States right now and make money. Steven, how big of a deal is this for Florida?
Yeah, it's major. I mean, you think about teams that are on the rise. FAU, Florida's coming back to their form of getting these top-end recruits. And if you're a college athlete coming out of high school and the first thing that comes out of coach's mouth saying, hey, you can come here and make money, that's the one thing as an athlete, that's your dream, is to go play at the highest level and make as much money as you can. But to do it in college at the same time, who knows? You blow up as a freshman and, you're the man on campus. I think it's great for the state of Florida. All these schools are going to have the upper hand for years to come until schools follow suit and states go, hey, we're gonna have to follow what Florida's doing, what California's doing, because they're gonna fall behind the 8 ball, and guys are gonna want to go to big time schools in Florida to go and compete and try to make some money. I think it's huge.
Yeah, man. What about you, CJ?
I agree. I think it's really big that Governor DeSantis was able to get this done as the first state to do it. I think that that's awesome. I felt like it would be a Florida, Texas, or California, basically recruiting hotbeds that they're just producing high school talent every year. That is just incredible. They dominate the top 100 prospects, those three states, really every year. So I'm very happy about it because I think it's the right thing to do. I think the more and more stuff that comes out about the NCAA, it feels like every 3 months that there's some new case where as someone, as a normal person in America, you're like, what in the hell is this rule with the NCAA? Like, this is just ridiculous. Like, in my opinion, the NCAA is the mafia. Okay, those guys are ridiculous, and something just happened with Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush just got allowed to be associated with USC. They literally told Reggie Bush for the last 15 years of his life, you are not allowed to even be associated with our school. Even though he went to school there, they won a championship and he won a Heisman. He was not allowed to even wear any USC stuff or talk about them or be associated with the school. So the NCAA is trying their best to go in the right direction. They got to strip their prehistoric, ridiculous, barbaric rules. And I'm glad that Florida gets to be the first state that does this new rule for the NCAA, and I also think, as you said, it's huge for FAU just because there are sometimes some swing 3-stars that we don't get, and maybe this will lead the way for FAU's first 4-star commit. So who knows?
Yeah, I think like the big picture too is like how big this is for the players. I mean, I've always thought it's unfair that you're a college football player and you got to have a job. That should not happen. So they choose this life. You shouldn't say, oh, you choose to be an athlete. That means you won't have time for a job. You won't have the opportunities that everyone else has to make money. Well, now they're saying, okay, if you want to play sports, you can make money in college. You can make it in pros. And that's how it should have been this whole time.
Yeah, and all these, the athletes make these programs, and that's what's been skewed throughout the years is everyone's saying, oh, these athletes, well, they're getting all this equipment, they're getting everything's paid for, school's taken care of, but it's not a luxurious lifestyle, per se. You're practicing 5 days a week, then you have games. Baseball, you're going around every single day of the week, 7 days a week. You travel and you're going back and forth, so you have no time for yourself. So to give the athletes the benefit of the doubt that make these schools who they are, give them their recognition, it has to be in the right for the NCAA to really start allowing these athletes to make some money for themselves. It's not going to be millions of dollars on hand. We're talking small scale stuff right now. And it's something for these athletes to look forward to and reward these guys for their hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to mention the negative sides of this. Not negative in my opinion, but according to the NCAA, they're a little freaked out by this because their worry is, wait, we don't want to turn into professional leagues where we've got to be offering contracts to players and stuff like that. John, do you think that's a reasonable concern for them?
Not at all, actually. I think it's a completely overblown concern. As you mentioned earlier, the wording in their own bill says that college athletes would not be allowed to be paid by their institutions.
Right.
That's an important distinction. That these aren't salaries. We're not asking them to be paid on salary. I hate the notion that people say we're going to pay the players. We're not going to pay the players. We're going to allow athletes to go be paid on a personal level. They're 18 years old. They're allowed to vote in this country. They should be allowed to make money off their own name and image and likeness. I mean, we've established this a long time ago. If they weren't involved in college athletics, there would be very few limits on what they were allowed to do business-wise. A 16-year-old can go do that right now, provided he's not in an NCAA sport. So it's crazy to me that once you turn 18, for that 4-year period of your life, we're essentially just removing all of your freedom, and two, your ability to generate income, which is frightening to me that we've done this for so long and we've allowed it. To be real, also it's important to mention that it's not every single player that's going to be able to generate income off their likeness. Not, if there's 100 players on a squad, you'd say maybe the top 25% at most would be even eligible to make this money because they're the ones that influence the games the most, the ones that have the most brand recognition, you would say. So it's not every player that's going to get paid anyway. And it's just like, in the NFL, the best players are going to get the best deals. The market is going to dictate who gets the best contracts and who is able to earn what they're able to earn. And that should be determined by your performance on the field.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but now with Florida doing this, how fast do you guys think the other states are going to be rushing to get these laws out?
I mean, with all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, I don't know how quick it's going to be. I'm sure they've got committees working on it. And at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do. But I think that it's going to be over the next 3 years, you're going to see it more and more. I don't think it's all going to be like a rush. I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's all going to happen within 4 or 5 months where it's every other week a new state is releasing that this is now changed. So that's why it's just huge for Florida. What I'm most excited about is maybe I can go to the FAU shop at halftime and go get a player's jersey with the name on the back, which would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, and it also, does this pave the way? Maybe we get some NCAA football video games again because those were pretty dope.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to pave the way for the video games to come back. People have been asking about them too much, and I'm sure EA Sports, who owns a freaking monopoly on every sports game for the most part, other than 2K, are going to do their best to get their hands on this. That would be a bestseller in the last 10 years for sports games if NCAA football came out.
Oh yeah, people are still playing. What was the last one that came out? 14.
14.
Yeah.
14,
I had
13, whatever.
I had a buddy sell it for $150 online the other day for a video game that's worth. I mean, Jesus, I'm glad I bought it when I was 15.
Oh yeah, man. Jeez.
And I think it bears mentioning, Jacob, that the only reason the NCAA canceled their sponsorships of these games is so they can continue this line of we don't want our athletes to be paid. We can continue that promoting that we don't want to fall down this slippery slope, meaning that we've been holding these athletes back for so long. We don't want to let them go now.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, you can see why they're kind of being a little hesitant on this, on the NCAA side. You can understand it, but again, like you said, the law literally says the colleges cannot pay the players directly, so it's all at the players' will. I really don't see any problem with this, and there's still pushback from NCAA. I mean, are there any other things that the NCAA should be worried about with this, though?
I think it opens it up just to a little bit to liability concerns potentially, but and that would probably be the only thing as far as what will they say that now that they're letting athletes get exploited. That's really what they would be concerned about. But athletes are 18 years old and they're allowed to make their own decisions. We allow them to vote. We allow them to drive. We allow 18-year-olds to take full control of their existence unless they play college football, and then they're not allowed to make money. So it's it's allowing people the freedom back to live in the United States and generate an income.
Yeah, 100%, man. And John, you got anything to plug for us today?
Oh, no, nothing yet. Nothing yet.
Well, hey, we got to announce you're the new sports director for Owl TV. I don't think we've had you on since then, so congratulations for that. That's awesome, bro.
I appreciate it.
Congrats, John.
My man, moving on up.
Absolutely. So we're going to have John on again for sure, and so we're going to have him log off now. We talked about college likeness. Thank you, John. We'll see you soon.
See ya.
Peace.
All right, so now we're going to move on, guys. And college likeness, this is a big deal. John talked about it. We all talked about it. It's a really big deal. So now let's move on, and we're going to talk about soccer because it's back today. Sports are actually being played today. It's unbelievable. It's been since mid-March. I think March 9th was the last time Premier League played, and now they're back.
Yeah, it's been 100 days.
Oh, my God. Yeah. CJ, you told me you're take me under your wing, teach me the ways of Premier League, Manchester United. I guess by default, I got to be a fan of them now. So if there's any Man U haters on here, I'm sorry. You just got 2 Man U fans on the pod. We're not going to change that. So, CJ, what are you looking forward to here with the Premier League coming back?
So, I've had the privilege of going over to England twice. The traditions for Premier League are not like anything that you'll see in the United States. The United States, like NFL and NHL and the NBA and the MLB, they all have really awesome traditions. But in England, they take it way further. Chants, songs in the stands. It's a really good atmosphere. If you ever get the privilege of going over there for the game, it's amazing. But so just for everybody that listens to understand, the Premier League is finishing up here, and there are a bunch of teams jockeying to be in the top four. If you are in the top four, you qualify for Champions League, which is played across Europe. All the leagues, all the countries have a top league in Europe, and they send 3 to 4 teams for Champions League, and United are trying to get into that top 4 at the moment. Today, right now, we have Aston Villa playing Sheffield United. Sheffield United was a team that was promoted this year from Division 2 and are actually currently 7th in the league, which is huge, and they're playing Aston Villa, who is fighting relegation. So the bottom 2 teams in the Premier League get relegated to Division 2, and the top 2 teams in Division 2 get promoted to Division 1, so that there is no such thing as tanking in sports over in Europe. So that's a cool thing. So yeah, that's a little bit about it, and if there's a big games today, Jacob. You should definitely watch Arsenal versus City. Those are 2 top 6 teams historically, and it should be a pretty fierce game. Lots of attacking.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely watching, man. And about the Champions League, I retweeted this morning. It says the Champions League will officially return on August 7th. Remainder of last 16 may be played at original stadiums. The last 8 played out in Lisbon with no second legs, and the final is on August 23rd. So, I think the perfect thing about this is you can totally pull in new fans with this amount of time here. I mean, I'm one of them. I mean, I never really was a big soccer guy. Now that there's no baseball, I don't have that every night. It's like I'm dying for sports, and I'm really excited to watch this. Steven, are you a big soccer guy? Are you going to start watching now?
No, I've been up and down. My cousin he played soccer throughout high school. He always tried to get me into it. He's a big Ronaldo fan and all that, and he loves Man U as well. So he tried to get me into soccer, but once I started betting, I got into it. More of a Crystal Palace guy, not gonna lie. One of my buddies got me hooked onto that club. So I don't know. I just kind of been off and on. I didn't really respect the game. Growing up, I thought it was weak. But then once I started watching it, full on, a 1-0 game or a draw could actually be pretty exciting. So I don't know a whole lot about. I can't name a whole lot of players on each club, but I definitely have more respect from it. After watching it, last summer CJ got me into it as well. So, definitely have a greater appreciation for it now.
Yeah, that's the one thing. All athletes in other sports, they're always like, soccer's the sport where they're the biggest wusses, basically. But doesn't take away from me. I mean, if there's good games, I'm gonna watch. That's all I want to see. So. CJ, do you have any predictions for who's going to come out of this? Who's your favorite right now in the Premier League?
Well, right now Liverpool are 100% winning the league. They've basically already clinched it. This is the first time that they are going to win Premier League in the new era that started late 90s. So there's always been an ongoing joke because Liverpool have never won the league. They've bottled it a couple times. So they won the league before the expansion. Basically, it's the same thing as when a team counts the Super Bowl from when the NFL was the AFL. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Liverpool haven't won the Premier League, so this is a huge year for them. They're 25 points clear of the top. They're 100% winning it. Now, second and third can interchange there. Leicester City, which is not technically a top 6 club, they're actually third place right now. So that's not a traditional Champions League club in Europe, and they're going to make the Champions League, which is huge for them. They were in Champions League 4 years ago because they won the league. I think it was 1,000 to 1 odds for them to win the league, and they ended up winning it. Craziness. I'm sure you guys remember that, but anyway, that's that. But just quickly to wrap up the soccer thing, Champions League at the knockout stage is always 2 legs. You play one home, and then the other team gets a home game, and it's off of aggregate scoring. So if you win the first game 2-0, and then lose the next game 4-0, you have lost the entire
that is weird.
Yeah, isn't it
you lost the series 4-2.
away goals count more, right, or something
Yeah,
like
so if
that.
there is
Yeah.
a tie, like if it's
Wow.
2-2, whoever had the 2 away goals goes through. If
Yeah,
it's 4-4, whoever had more away goals goes through.
I mean, that's weird, but I mean, it's fun at the
It's
same time.
electric. It's electric. That's the only way that, like, the last time United were in Champions League, they played Barcelona. So like, Manchester United are a English team. They don't see any teams outside of England unless they're in Champions League. So Champions League opens up the door for the best players, no matter the country, to play each other, and that's why it's so successful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now we're going to shift into the NFL, and I know there's just a bunch of stuff going on right now with that. And we're just going to start off talking about Dalvin Cook. He's been making the headlines lately. He's the next running back that is telling reporters he's going to hold out until he gets his contract. So we always know this is the argument. I will never argue with a player trying to get more money. But the thing is, and this is like, I am so torn on this. Do you pay a running back? Because first of all, especially with Dalvin Cook, I think he's had 2 torn ACLs, and then he's had 1 full season, and now he's like, give me a big contract. I think he's good enough to pay him, but it's like, do you want to give him 5 years at whatever amount of money? I would say for like a guy like Zeke, yeah, undeniably you give him the contract. Saquon, you give him the contract. But Dalvin Cook, I think, is not in the same boat as those other 2 guys because he's had 2 torn ACLs. Do you think Minnesota should pay up for Dalvin Cook?
Uh, the NFL, there's an abundance of running backs. Yes, you have your elites. You have Zeke. You have Christian McCaffrey just got paid, but these guys have stayed healthy for a majority of their careers. They haven't had injury problems. Dalvin Cook, he's had ACL problems. Hamstring has been a nagging issue for him. Perfect example for me is look at Todd Gurley. He was great for 2-3 years there, and now all of a sudden he's kind of fallen off the map, having injuries. He, I think he has arthritis in his knee or something like that. Has had major knee problems. So you look at it, if you're healthy, you deserve the money. But if you're constantly up and down fighting the IR, I'm not going to go and risk it and give you this giant payday if I don't know if you can stay on the field and help us win, every Sunday. But he's definitely talented. I would give him not all of what he's looking for, but definitely, I would cut him something because he's very valuable when he's out there.
Yeah, because they can't let him go. I mean, he's their offense.
Yeah, without him, I don't see them beating, like getting to the playoffs last year, in all honesty, because I didn't really like the way that Kirk Cousins played like in the middle of the season last year. He was really tough
quarterback in the league.
And they made a little bit of a run at the end to win a few games. But, I mean, the guy was above 1,600 yards. I think it's a little disrespectful for the front office to basically say, no, you're not worth this. Because he is worth what he's asking for. Now, remember, this isn't like an Ezekiel Elliott situation where Zeke wants to be the highest paid running back. He believes he should be the highest.
True.
This isn't Christian McCaffrey, in the next coming years when his rookie deal's up, where he's going to be like, well, clearly I'm the best running back playmaker in the league. Like, I should be paid more than whoever's the top earner right now. Dalvin Cook wants a reasonable contract. He said it. I want a reasonable contract. And he should get a reasonable contract. Now, here's the thing. The Vikings are in a little bit of a hole here. Do I pay the running back, which is kind of bucking the trend right now because people aren't really paying running backs right now? Do I let him hold out, or do I flat out let him walk? Because guess what? There's a team out there that's going to pay. Dalvin Cook's a 1,600-yard rusher. There is a team out there that is going to pay for him, and then you've literally let a 1,600-yard rusher walk away in his prime. So, in my opinion, if I'm the general manager, I pay him the reasonable contract, and then I have a tier 1 running back. There you go.
I mean, hey, the Bucks have cap space. You think Tom Brady wouldn't want Dalvin Cook right now?
Yeah, I'd take Dalvin Cook all day. Last year was his coming out party. He had his first 2 years, he went 354. I believe he got hurt his rookie year. 18, he went 615, and last year he went 1,135 and 13 touchdowns. So he's coming in, like CJ said, he's coming into his prime. He's right. He's peaking. If he stays healthy, he'll be their guy, and I think you have to lock him down because someone will. He goes and walks, and you let him go, someone's going to swipe him right up, and I would take that guy in a heartbeat given his injury concerns. He's just a good enough talent out in the field.
Did you see Brady in the Bucks uniform yesterday, Steven?
Dude, I'm like, yeah, I thought it was. I mean, it felt like a dream, but once I saw him in it, it looks kind of natural. He doesn't look bad in the unis, so it
It's not
just.
terrible.
I mean, I can't wait to see him out there. I just hope it all works itself out. But I'm excited. Patriots fans are very depressed. I texted Kyle Gray yesterday. It's like don't even get me started. But hey, it's a new era.
I mean, like, I just drove by Raymond James the other day. I was going down in that area, and I looked at the stadium. I looked at my brother. I'm like, that's Tom Brady's stadium. Like, that's so weird. Passed this place like 50,000 times, and now it's Tom Brady's home stadium. So I just thought it was really cool that he's down in our area. So, and CJ's in South Florida, but he's in me and Steven's area. So I know, CJ, you wanted to talk more stuff about the NFL. You had more topics?
Yeah, so I think that there's something, a talking point on a lot of these channels recently. Let's say Colin Cowherd, The Herd, Undisputed, First Take, Get Up on ESPN, like all that. A couple topics that I keep seeing repeatedly that I wanted to bring up here are three things. The Aaron Rodgers situation, I think, is becoming more and more dramatic than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And that's one topic. The second one is I'm seeing every single day Tua Tagovailoa is probably going to start week one, or why Tua should start week one. And for me, it doesn't really make much sense. Like, why weren't people saying this a couple months ago? And then the third topic that I definitely wanted to talk about was Roger Goodell, 4 years later, backtracking on blackballing Colin Kaepernick and is saying that he encourages him playing in the NFL, which, in my opinion, if he's good enough, he should get a contract, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know if Colin Kaepernick actually wants to just be in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you guys can, whichever one you want to talk about first, Steven, go ahead.
I'll go on the Kaepernick thing real quick. I was listening to when Goodell came out and spoke about all the Black Lives Matter stuff and that, and he retracted to the Colin Kaepernick deal. It was more like the video that he released was like a hostage video. He was sitting there like forced to say all what he had to say and this and that. Like someone has a camera in front of him, like you got to say this. It didn't seem very genuine. Like if you really cared about him being in the league, you should have said that from the get-go, while everyone was, bashing him and saying, "Oh, you're doing this for publicity. You're not standing up for what." Like he was standing up for what was right, and people bashed him for it. And that was his thing. People can like differentiate, that. But if he really wanted to play football, he would have kept going. I think quiet for a little bit, and then now he really wants to play again, quote unquote. But I just think, retracting that far, if you really cared about him being in your league and playing up for a team, you should have said something right away.
I mean, the thing that people forget is that Kaepernick was fucking terrible the last year that he played. Like, no one brings that up. Like, he was god-awful.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that last game he played against the Dolphins, and he lost, and it was a terrible game for him. I mean, that whole season was bad. I mean, whether that was because of everything else, who knows? It was all in his head. But, I mean, the one thing I'll say about this argument, because I don't want to go too far, Stephen A. Smith brought up a very good point. When Kaepernick started these protests, all he was doing was essentially shouting in the air because, number one, he didn't vote, and number two, he didn't have a plan for action. He was just basically saying things and expecting people to conform to what he said. And that's just not how you do things. You're supposed to say things, have a plan for how you're going to address it, but if you didn't vote and you have nothing, you're just shouting in the air. You're just wearing your socks with cops as pigs for no reason. So I think his messaging was wrong the whole time. It's not about the actual message. I think, like, even I'll admit, I have no problem with what he said. He even said within his messaging, he's like, I have no problem with America. He thinks America's great. He was just addressing problems that he had seen. I just think the way he went about the messaging is why he's been blackballed. Because what owner wants to run a team with some guy wearing socks with cops as pigs? They don't want that. They don't want a guy just shouting into the air, speaking nonsense. So if he had voted, if he had a plan, if he had made some sort of organization, if he had started a fund to repair these things that he's talking about, maybe people would have taken him more seriously. But as far as him coming back, like CJ said, if he's good enough, come back, dude. I mean, Anthony Lynn just said today, the head coach of the Chargers, he said Kaepernick fits our system. So maybe Kaepernick's going to be trying out for the Chargers, and they're thinking, hey, maybe we'll throw Kaepernick out there instead of Tyrod Taylor to start the season. I mean, listen, Kaepernick always had a cannon of an arm, so I never denied that. He was always very mobile. It's just those final year or two that he played, he was terrible, and it's bad optics. Maybe it's not bad optics anymore, but I mean, that's all I'll say really about the Kaepernick thing.
Well, I think he needs to go in somewhere and embrace a role that's not going to be a starter off the bat. Like he tried out for the Seattle Seahawks, and it's like the Seahawks have Russell Wilson. Colin Kaepernick in his career will never ever be Russell Wilson, and he wants a starting spot. There's no teams in the league right now that are at, first of all, there's no teams in the league that genuinely need a quarterback.
Yeah, Cam
Everyone's kind of set on their guy or has a guy that they're molding, so that's that. Secondly, he needs to embrace a role in which he's going to come on a team as a backup, wait for his opportunity, or mentor a guy, and you're going to get paid. And that's the thing. Like, I don't know if that's what he wants. If he's got the talent, then he should 100% be signed. There should be, like, just because of your political ideals and what you fight for and that you're an activist, that shouldn't have to do with your football talent. So if you have the football talent, Colin Kaepernick, you should go put yourself out there and get signed. Because I would love nothing more than for us to put this behind us and he's a backup on a team. Or freaking he's the starter. He wins it in training camp, whatever it may be. But he needs to do that himself. Now that the league is accepting him, I'm very interested to see if Colin Kaepernick's full plan this entire time was to get back in the NFL, or he put that kind of as a front, like they're not letting me back in the league and would rather take over more of a career down the path of human rights and whatnot, which if that's what he wants to do, fantastic. I think he would be very good at it. But if he wants to be in the NFL, the opportunity is there right now, and it's on him.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So we also have the topic about Aaron Rodgers and how it's being overblown. I would agree. I mean, like, what's the big deal? They drafted a quarterback because the Packers are thinking Aaron Rodgers is 30-something years old, mid-30s, going into late 30s. He's been injured, not terrible injuries, but he's had injuries. And they're thinking, we want to have a future. We're not the type of team that can lure a free agent to Green Bay. We need to make sure that we have a starter, prepared if Aaron Rodgers goes down. I never had a problem with them drafting Jordan Love. It didn't make any sense that they did it that high. They should have waited way longer. But I just think everyone's, blowing up the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. He's still the starting quarterback. He's going to be the starting quarterback until he's not good anymore. And if Jordan Love doesn't get a chance to start, then they'll probably trade Jordan Love. I think they literally drafted him just in case the relationship went downhill with LaFleur and Rodgers or something like that. I really never saw the big deal in it. Again, I definitely saw the big deal in them drafting him in the first round. They could have waited a long time for that, but yeah, I never saw a problem with them drafting Love in general.
Yeah, I mean, drafting him early, like you said, was a kind of like a head scratcher. You're like, well, like what's the point here? There were so many people left on the board. Could have gotten running back, offensive help, defensive side, whatever. There was so much talent left there, but never was I sitting there on draft night thinking, well, this guy's gonna go and take Aaron Rodgers' spot. We're gonna kick him out of town. Yeah, I mean, if anyone thinks that Rodgers isn't gonna be the guy day one, even throughout the whole year, I don't think he's going to take the field unless, it's late game reps and they're up by 30 or whatever, and give him some, garbage time, play. But, Aaron Rodgers is the guy for the next, 2-3 years to come, at least, I think. That's my belief. Let Love sit behind him, learn from one of the better quarterbacks to come through the game, and just let him develop. So that's how I see the whole QB situation up there in Green Bay.
So my opinion on this was there's two sides of it. Do I think it was ridiculously stupid to draft Jordan Love? Yeah, I think it was really dumb. Now, let me go further. It was even more dumb to trade up with the Miami Dolphins. Why in the world did they trade up for Jordan Love, who very well could have fallen to the second round, let alone was 100% going to be there at pick number 30? Makes no sense whatsoever. Now, as I've said on this podcast many times before, do you see what the San Francisco 49ers did in that draft? They became better. Did you see what the Baltimore Ravens did in that draft? They became better. Hell, the Kansas City Chiefs got better in round one. They drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's actually going to be a stud for the Chiefs. They got better. What did the Green Bay Packers, who were 13-3 last year, do? All they did was add a quarterback. And they have a quarterback. That made no sense. What I think is being blown out of proportion is basically the media is almost putting this decision on Aaron Rodgers. How does that make any sense? They're like, oh, he's difficult to work with. He's always got an attitude. He's always got a face. He's not easy to get along with. Look, the players will call him out. His brothers called him out before. I think that's so blown out of proportion. I've never taken Aaron Rodgers to be some problematic dude or some guy that kind of creates problems in the locker room or guys don't want to play with him. He seems like his players love him. On the field, he's animated. On the field, he's hugging guys. He's dapping everyone up. He's doing whatever he can to get his team to win. And now I'm hearing it's this front office problem. It's family issues. It's Black Lives Matters issues, and that's why they drafted Jordan Love. I disagree. I think this whole thing is a smokescreen. Aaron Rodgers, good guy, Hall of Fame quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the league right now. He's just being disrespected by everyone, and that's what I mean by it's blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I mean, like, to prove how much of a leader he is, I remember, like, I think it was 2015 or 16, he came out, they were, like, under 500, and he was like, we're running the table. I mean, you need to be a pretty damn good leader to, like, run the table and actually do it. And I think it wasn't just 3 games. It was, like, 7 or 8 games. They just ran off and won 7 or 8. You can't be a dick and say that and have your team get behind you. I can never buy that. Plus, I mean, late in games, he's always coming back, right? He never gives up. That shows the rest of his teammates we can't give up either. It's about the culture. It's about that winning culture in Green Bay. That's what Aaron Rodgers wants. I agree with you, CJ. I've never seen, like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is bad to work with. Oh, yeah. Has he called out some receivers sometimes? Yeah, because Green Bay gets some shitty receivers. He should call it out. He's a top 5 quarterback, and he should tell them when he doesn't have enough weapons. He's got Devontae Adams, and that's it, basically. I mean, you know, they always have a second or third receiver that's like a one-year guy that succeeds for 1 year, and then you never hear about him again. But, yeah, I mean, this whole Rodgers thing is completely blown out of proportion. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, once again, I just think it's blown way out of, it's nothing I think has any bearing, and I don't really, I said it before, there's no, it is what it is. He's going to be the guy there, and that's the end of it. That's all I really have to say about it.
He's going to be the guy there with less weapons. Every quarterback in the league's got more weapons than him. He's got Devontae Adams and, a decent stable of running backs. But, dude, after that, it's horrible. Their secondary wide receiver, not good enough. Their slot wide receiver is not good enough. Their tight end is not good enough at all. Their third wide receiver on the depth chart, not good enough. And Devontae Adams is constantly hurt. You went 13-3. You were a game away from the Super Bowl. Improve. I've never seen a team that was a game away from the Super Bowl. I'll tell you right now, the only team that would actually draft a quarterback after being a game away from the Super Bowl is a team that literally had a backup quarterback bring them all the way to the conference championship game. And that backup quarterback was really old. Aaron Rodgers still has 2 or 3 great years left in him, and he's being completely disrespected. What I think is blown out of proportion is how this somehow has to do with his personality.
So now we're going to move on and talk about Tua, like CJ mentioned. So there's this whole thing now that there's a bunch of articles coming out. Can Tua start week 1? You had, like CJ said, Colin Cowherd coming out saying, why not? You have Ryan Fitzpatrick, why not? I'm kind of on that side. It's like, why wait? Just figure out what you have now. They got him O-line guys. They got him a running back. He has Devontae Parker. They added a bunch of guys on free agency. Why the hell not? What are you going to gain from Ryan Fitzpatrick? Ryan Fitzpatrick can still mentor Tua from the sidelines. You don't need him on the field to do that. CJ, I know you're a Dolphins fan. You probably have a better opinion on this than I do.
Well, do I think that Tua is going to go into the training camp and wow everyone? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to 100% beat Ryan Fitzpatrick in almost every drill, like towards the end of training camp? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to take over that starting position at some point? Yes. Here's the thing: you have a brand new O line, rookies, veterans that you just signed. None of them have played a game together. Who knows what training camp's going to look like? And you can't just put your rookie quarterback right behind that at the beginning. And for instance, we play a ridiculous schedule right off the bat. It's Patriots, Seahawks, someone else, whatever. Like it's three straight 3 or 4 weeks where it's like, okay, that's kind of a brutal schedule in terms of defenses.
Oh, I
And
didn't
we
even
go to
know
play
that.
the Jaguars week 3 after the Seahawks, I'm pretty sure, or the Seahawks are right after, whatever it is. Those are two great defenses, okay? And it's just something you don't want Tua to go right into. I think Tua should start over probably like week 4 is when I think so. But all these people are somehow saying that Tua, there's no way that they can keep him on the sideline for week 1. And for me, yes, there is. You've been waiting 20 years for your Marino. Just let the guy sit. Let the guy sit for a couple weeks and let the freaking O-line gel. And then let him get behind an O-line that's just gelled.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. I didn't even really think about the schedule and how they haven't played together as a team. So I actually agree with you. Like, you don't want to throw him out there just to get shit on. You know, you want him to come out and have a good game. So, Steven, would you be playing Tua week 1?
No, I absolutely not. I let him sit back, watch a few games, see how it all, plays itself out. And then by week, 4, 5, even 6, if you're, 1-3 or whatever, it's not going the way you want it to go, then you throw him in. See what he's got. Like, let him, get a taste of, regular season NFL football. But no, I'm not throwing him out there week 1 just because I don't think he'd be ready yet. I'm not a firm believer of just throwing a guy out there just to throw him out there. And you have a guy that can, win you some games right there. What Fitzpatrick was the guy week 1. Is that, like, am I right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he's your guy
Fitzpatrick would
week
be
1.
the
So I
guy
mean, yeah. So I mean, he can string he can string wins together for you. But I just don't see it's not urgent for you to go and throw Tua out there. He's your future right now. And how bad would it feel if you went out there week 1 or 2 and he goes out there and pulls something up, his hip blows out. I mean, that would just be a disaster. So I don't think it's a good idea to throw him out there in the first couple of weeks. So no, I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, so let's do the NBA because I was going to do like a whole segment on it, but really all that's going on is Kyrie Irving complained that they're playing in the bubble in Orlando because it's Kyrie Irving. So basically, the whole league came out and said, "No, Kyrie, we're going to play basketball. Stop whining." So supposedly they're going to be breaking up the teams into 3 separate hotels based on seating. And they've been releasing the rules. There's a ton of them. I'm not going to go over all of them, but basically, the NBA is telling these players, once you enter Orlando, there is no leaving. You're here until you're eliminated. You have to quarantine first. If you even leave Orlando, you have to be in your hotel for 2 weeks. I don't even think I was listening to Clay Travis this morning. I'll kick the coverage. He's like, "What's going to happen when players want to sneak girls into their room? Like, are they even allowed to do this right now? Like, it's pretty shitty because like you can't like test a girl before you come. Like, that's not going to happen, obviously. So I think there's a lot of like weird shit going on. We saw the NBA players are going to get to watch Black Widow, like a movie that hasn't been released yet. Like while they're there, like they're just trying to like basically pussy up to the players and give them entertainment and shit like that. But I'm glad the NBA is coming back. I don't think there's much controversy over this, but my opinion on it, I just think like after 3 weeks, these NBA guys are going to be like, I cannot stand being in this bubble. We need to go back to our arenas. I mean, that's just how I think it's going to go.
Yeah, I have that same conversation about with NHL and how they're going to be. The NBA and NHL have the same layout with what they're doing. It's going to be in 2 different hub cities. It's going to be the same concept, staying in the same place, same hotel, whatever. Like I said, after about 2 weeks, everyone's gonna get stir crazy. Everyone's gonna be getting, sick and tired of seeing the same people every day, and it's just gonna be like, I don't know. It's like Groundhog Day every day for those guys, and you're stuck to very little. You're going to practice, you're playing a game, and you're back, and that's it. So I feel like not being able to go to your own home and kind of take time for yourselves. The mental aspect for these players that after a big game they can go back to their own house, decompress. They're by themselves. They're with their family. There's none of that in this return to play format. And unfortunately, that's just how it's going to be if they want to finish this season. But I think, like you said, you're right. After 2 weeks, it's going to be. I think guys are going to start speaking out, be like, "This isn't the way to go. We can't do this."
Yeah, 100%. What about you, CJ?
I agree with Steven completely. At a point, it's just going to be I can't do this anymore, and I feel like the world is honestly going into that area. I know that Black Lives Matter has dominated the media scene right now, and rightfully so. Everybody should be paying attention to that, and as a country at least, we should be paying attention to that, and first and foremost at the moment, regardless of coronavirus being around. But I'm hearing talks of maybe another shutdown in Florida or something like that, and I just don't see how that could possibly happen. People are losing their jobs. People are losing money. Businesses are shutting down. At some point, you literally just are like, go outside of your own risk. That's up to you. And that's it, because I'm not going to sit here and say the coronavirus is not serious. It is serious, but it is nowhere near as lethal or deadly as some people make it seem. And that is my opinion on it. But in terms of the NBA, yeah, I agree with both of you. I mean, there's going to be a point where it's some players over there are going to reach a breaking point. And I will say, Joy Taylor made a great point yesterday on Fox Sports. She had said, I mean, these guys just quarantined in their house, albeit some of them with their families, and now the world is kind of opening up, but they're going to be forced to go back into a quarantine over in Orlando. Because they're not only going to be allowed out of their hotel rooms or go do whatever the hell they want. It's going to be quarantine. You got to be quarantined until you play. So I can see some players having some reservations about it, and I'm just not buying this whole thing with the Kyrie Irving and Dwight Howard. Like, what are you doing? Like what are you doing? Like, I get it. Like, our focus should be Black Lives Matter right now, but Charles Barkley said it best. You're going to be losing money if you don't play, and that's going to make the cap go down. And that's money that you can be putting into these foundations and these charities that go towards Black Lives Matter. So, I don't know. That's my opinion on that. But
I mean,
it's going to happen. They're going to play. Like honestly, LeBron's going to look at them and be like, "You guys are being ridiculous."
Yeah, he's already done that. I think Pat Beverly on the Clippers, he was like, if LeBron says we're playing, we're playing. So that's a good sign. But like a quick Kyrie rant, like there was a rumor. I don't think it's even a rumor. He texted the Nets players on a group chat and said we should start and form our own league. I think it's literally the most dangerous thing that the NBA has ever done, making Kyrie Irving I believe he's the guy that's the representation for the NBA Players Association. How is that guy leading the NBA PA? That just doesn't make any sense. This guy is saying he wants to form a new league, and he's your spokesperson, and like 95% of the people disagree with him about not playing either. That's ridiculous. Kyrie Irving's just like, he's had this flat earth shit. Like, he's just a weird guy. I don't know why he's leading the Players Association.
Yeah, let's have some anarchy here. Let's start our own league, and then fuck the NBA, and then let's hey, I'm your spokesperson, by the way. Follow me. But
yeah, I don't get it. So hey, at least the NBA is coming back, but baseball probably isn't. So this can start where. Oh, I'm gonna take a big deep breath here because it's just very angering just watching all this be played out. So basically, Rob Manfred came out during the MLB draft. He's like, we are 100% unequivocally playing baseball in 2020. And then 5 days later, he goes on the Return to Sports show on ESPN, where every other sport had a plan to come back. And he's like, well, I don't know about that. I'm not too sure that we're coming back now. So basically what's happening is the players are over here, and I'll just address this. I've said the whole time, even though the players are winning right now, they've won the battle. Like, they've won the war in terms of the argument. But they're still wrong in a lot of different ways. They could have been much more reasonable this whole time. I mean, again, I said it, I think, every podcast. Even if you make $1 million, you're still making $330,000 this year. Suck it up and go play baseball. The announcers are taking pay cuts. Everyone in the industry, I mean, people are losing their jobs. I mean, you have Blake Snell going out there saying, oh, I don't want to risk my life for no damn Rona. Even though, according to the statistics, if you're under 50, you have a higher likelihood of getting hit by a car and dying than you do of getting killed by the coronavirus. So Blake Snell's argument just doesn't exist.
You're not running to go take a hill. You're not running up a bullet filled field here. You're going to play baseball. I'm pretty sure they're gonna have requirements for you to be tested. Like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, basically, what's happening is now the players are telling the owners, this is the current fight. They're like, we have time right now to play 70 to 89 games, but the owners are doing everything in their power to delay that as much as possible to get down to the 50 games. Because once they get to the 50 games, the owners will lose the least amount of money. So they're doing this all for money because, according to Trevor Plouffe on Talking Baseball and a lot of other people, he says there's a lot of owners in this league that just don't give a shit about baseball. So it's really, they only have it so they can brag to their friends and say, hey, I own $1 billion baseball team. Look at me. So that's why there's 6 to 8 owners right now. And by the way, they only need 8 owners to say we don't want to play baseball for there to be no season. There's currently 6 owners out of the potential 8 that they need saying that they don't want to play baseball right now. I think we can make our guesses as to which owners that may be. Probably Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Miami. Maybe not Derek Jeter, though. I could see him wanting to play. But anyway, the players are now going to be filing a grievance because they're saying that baseball has been purposely delaying the start of the season, and they're right. Baseball has been delaying it as much as possible. So Rob Manfred basically came out the other day and said, hey, we're going to come back, but only if you guys promise not to file the grievance. He said that because he knows baseball would lose the grievance. So now Rob Manfred's backed into a corner, and to be honest with you, that's why I'm thinking we're actually going to get a season because Rob Manfred and those owners know that there's no way they're coming out of that grievance on the winning side because they're totally wrong. I just think it's a total sham. They should have been back by now. Spring training should have been starting right now. Season on July 4th. And now you have soccer coming back. The WNBA is coming back before this is pathetic. People already didn't watch baseball. The average age of a fan is 57. It's not going to get any younger now. Young people just don't give a crap. They don't want to sit for 3 hours and watch the same thing, this slow-paced game. I love baseball. I grew up with it. But to get new fans, you have to do new shit. And they could have come back, been the exclusive sport, the only one back, and they blew it. They already blew it. Even if they come back, I don't want 50 games. The only games I would count, I would want a 70-game season or more. That's really the only way that I would really count it as being a real season. 50 games is like playing it's like playing April and half of May and then saying, yeah, we're going to the playoffs. Like the Orioles could make it at that rate. Yeah. So, Steven, I know, you're our baseball guy. What are you thinking about all this?
Like you said, I think you've hit all the points. It's just it's a sham. I'm watching the MLB draft here, and I'm watching this pigeon Manfred come up and announce all these picks, acting like we're gonna get some season and like these prospects are gonna be stepping into a facility. No, we're not getting that. Every day I'm seeing like, oh, we're gonna get 80 games. No, now we're gonna get 30. Now we're gonna get 40, 50, 60. It's like, where's the middle ground? You can't have your cake and eat it too, guys. Like, your players, you're gonna have shorter seasons. You're not gonna get paid all that money. Owners, you're gonna lose money regardless. It's a shit situation. You're not gonna get you're not gonna get a perfect storm here. You gotta just settle the middle, make a middle ground, settle at it, play 60, 70 games. And I think, CJ, you made the point yesterday in our group chat. You said, hey, this is a perfect opportunity for baseball to experiment a shorter season. And we've said that plenty of times. It's a sprint to the finish. You don't have this 130, 162 game season where you have to, milk your way out, and teams that are not in it don't care. The same teams are always in it. You have an experimental option here, and baseball keeps squandering that opportunity to, get themselves back. And they keep saying we have time. We don't have time. Training camp is going to be a month at least. You're going to be running into late July, and then you're going to have to go play these games, and then you're going to be rivaling college football, all this and that. Once again, baseball's buried. You had a chance to come back, one of the earliest of all the sports to be there, and they blew it. And they got to, recover quick.
Before you go, CJ, I actually just got a breaking news alert from John Heyman. He's an insider at MLB Network. He said, breaking, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred and Players Union Chief Tony Clark have what's being called a productive meeting face-to-face in Arizona. Meeting was called at Manfred's request. So basically what I just said is true. Manfred knows that they were pushed into a corner, and he knows they would lose the grievance. So now he's like, hey, everyone, let's come talk. Let's have this conversation now. He's a total flake. And I do want to address this too. I don't want to put all of the blame on Rob Manfred because At the end of the day, his job is to serve the owners. He's the spokesperson to the owners. So this isn't like Rob Manfred is making these unilateral decisions. It's the owners telling him, hey, Mr. Puppet Man, can you go say what we want you to say, please? So he's basically the poster boy, and that's why he's getting so much hate. But really, we should be mad at the stuck-up owners.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's they're relying, I feel, on their end because they're losing out on their piece of the money. Obviously, no one wants to lose any money here, but it's not, like I said, with no fans and all the whole 100 yards here, you're not going to make all the money you've been making in prior seasons. It's just not going to happen. And I feel like these owners just got to gut it up and just go out and play. You have TV deals, you have all this stuff. Players have endorsements, and I think they've fully embraced that. Players like Trout and all these guys have Nike, Adidas stuff, and they're going to have more money coming in besides just their playing contract. And owners, you have the same thing on your side. So you have TV deals. Oh, I already just named it. But it's just they grow up. Get back to playing. Everyone else is doing it. Follow suit before you just absolutely get ripped apart. And if there's no season, you're not going to get the end of it. Baseball will be dead. It's almost getting killed right now, and they really gotta man up and just get out in the field and play.
And it's just really sad. It's really sad to just see it just completely nosediving in front of our face. CJ, you have anything to put in?
No, I definitely still stand by what I said. I think the MLB had such a good opportunity to basically have an experimental season of like what would it be like if we had an abbreviated season of 70 games, and then maybe they can experiment going forward with more of an 100-game season. Because, yeah, sure, the MLB is this marathon and whatnot. Cool, right? Whatever. I think the biggest gripe with baseball right now, like if none of this stuff would have ever happened and the cheating scandal never happened, people's biggest gripe with baseball would be there's too many games, and a lot of them I don't feel like really matter. This way, every game matters, and you can really see what an intensified playoff run would be, where every team is in it. And maybe that would help grow the sport. Maybe in Miami, Marlins fans would start coming back because they had a 70-game season, which they were in it at the end, and it generated excitement. And I just think the MLB has squandered every opportunity left and right, whether it be the players, the front office, the owners, whoever it is. And sad for the sport, but I can't say that I really didn't see it coming because I don't think that they're a very functional league.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, we have to have perspective. I mean, we're all young enough that we didn't live through this. They had a strike in '94. They fought in the 70s and 80s. So baseball, and they've always disagreed. This has always been a thing with them. And that's why I don't think they'll ever reduce the amount of games, because the owners are going to want to play as many games as possible to make as much money as possible. They're never going to take away, 20 home games from their revenue. They're never going to want to do that. And that's why I'm so nervous for the new collective bargaining agreement that they're going to have to negotiate after next season. So that's why some people have said worst case scenario, we might not even see baseball till 2023 because of this CBA bullshit. So my recommendation to baseball is come to the agreement to return to play, but also start negotiating the CBA right now. Start it right now so that you can have a deal in place by next year. Get the universal DH. Everyone wants it. Everyone knows the service time with, you can't call up your rookies until the third week of April because it adds an extra year to their contract. Everyone knows that needs to go away. I mean, just this morning, owners are now trying to get draft picks from this year to agree to contracts for 2021 so that they can have an extra year of control on their minor leaguers. So they're still trying to take advantage of players. It's unreal. It's just like they're stuck in their ways. Baseball's never going to change, and it's just sad. So I guess that'll do it for the pod. We ended on a really dark note, I guess. Is there anything we got to cheer ourselves up a little bit here? Is there any? So I guess I'm gonna go watch soccer in about an hour. We have Man City and Arsenal. Do you have a winner, CJ?
I think Man City is gonna win by 2 goals. Real quick, it's gonna be hard for me to be on the podcast over the next 2 shows. The next 2 weeks, I will be out of town in Michigan. I'll be golfing up in Lake Michigan. I'm very excited to go. I'll be up there with my dad for Father's Day, and we're going to be chilling on the lake and hitting some golf balls and getting some drinks, so it's going to be a good time. So if I'm not on the podcast, hopefully I'll be able to and find some free time to be on it. But if I'm not, good luck, boys. I'd love to put in some input for you guys to talk about on the show, but I'm going on vacation, and that is my non-dark note.
Have fun, my guy. I mean, if you can come on, you can come on. If you don't, enjoy your vacation. And Steven, I hope that you don't get COVID. That's I guess we got to end the show on that.
Yeah, that would not be good. That would be terrible.
Yeah, I'll be down 2 co-hosts. If you have COVID and CJ's on vacation, I don't have anyone. So please just don't get COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. So that'll wrap it up for today's pod. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and a bunch of other platforms as well. Follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. Thank you guys for listening.